Today we're going to explain the environment in R. We're going to show you how to open up your first R project. We're going to go over R Markdown and we're going to get started on our first assignment. So when you first open up RStudio after you have gone through the downloading process, you'll see here that you have this setup. And on this side you'll see the console. This is where you're going to be running all of your code. And on the other side, on the right side, you're going to see two blocks. And on the top block is where your environment shows up. And so this is where you're going to see all of your variables. This is where you'll also see history, and you'll also be able to clean up those variables. On the bottom, in the bottom right here, there's many different tabs. So the first tab that you're on is your Files tab, and this references your home directory. So wherever your project is located, all of the files in that folder are going to show up here. So you have easy access if you wanted to add images or add additional data. You would be able to find it easily within these files. Now the second one that I'm clicking on is plots. And so if you run a plot within the console, not within R Markdown, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we get there. But if you run a plot in the console, you'll see it show up here under plots. All of the packages that you've installed will be located under packages, so you can see what you have and what you don't have. And then under help, you'll be able to type in any comment, and this is really helpful in R because they have a really great platform for getting you the assistance that you need. And so you can type literally anything into this help function. You could type just plot, and it's going to come up with generic XY plotting. And so you'd be able to pretty much do anything in R just by typing into this help button and figuring it out from there. And of course we'll talk about more efficient ways to do things, but this is a really, really great way to, if you're not familiar with the program, to learn a lot on the fly. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our first project. So we're going to go up here to File, New Project. And we're going to put this in a new directory. You can put this in an existing directory, but for your first project, I recommend putting it in a new directory. And what this new directory is going to do is it's going to create a folder that will exist for the project. So we're going to click New Project, and let's put as the directory name, My First Project. You can create it as a Git repository if you want to, if you are someone who uses Git. So go ahead and do that and click Create Project. So you can see up here it says switching to project, and it's loading. And now we see the same environment that we were previously in. However, you can see over here under Files that we are in the home, and then we're in the My First Project directory, and you can see that here in the R project. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to File, and we're going to create a new file. Now you can create a bunch of different things here. You can use R Script, R Notebook, you can create a web app using Shiny. However, those are a little bit more advanced, and what we're going to do is we're going to create everything in R Markdown. So everything that you're going to do in this course, you're going to be using R Markdown. And R Markdown is a really great way, as you'll see, to process codes in chunks and to comment on things and get a really good feel for what's going on when you look back on it. Okay, so let's title this My First Project. Now the output format, so in Markdown, one of the really great ways to use Markdown is that you can output it into many different formats. So you can choose HTML, PDF, or a Word document. I'm just going to leave it as HTML, which is the default, but you can put whatever you want here. We're going to click OK. And it's going to open up here, and so you can see here there's the title My First Project and the output HTML document. You can change this at any time. And then you can see all of this code, and this is just sample code, and it will open every time you open an R Markdown, and you can just go ahead and delete that. Okay, so now we're starting out with a fresh R Markdown, and so we're going to be able to put R blocks in here, but also we can write, if we're writing a report or we're trying to write instructions, we can write anything here. And it's going to show up as text in a PDF or the HTML or the Word document. So you can do double hashes if you want a title or a subtitle. And then to insert a block of our code, we're going to go up here to this Insert button, and we'll click down, and you can actually insert other types of coding as well, but we're going to go ahead and insert R. And so you can see it here. You could also hard code this in if you didn't want to click the insert button. Okay, so now we have our first R code block, so we're going to write our first line of our code. So we're going to print hello world to the console. And so if you go ahead and press this play button over here, it says run current chunk, and that's what we're going to do. So go ahead and run that. And then if you open up the console on the bottom here, you'll see that hello world was indeed printed to the console. Okay, awesome. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable. So one of the great things about R, and if you're familiar working in MATLAB or Python, you'll know how useful creating a variable can be. And so we're going to create a variable, and we're going to call this variable hello world. So we're going to go ahead and run this code chunk, and note for MATLAB users that you're not going to put anything after the hello world. There's no semicolon here, you're just going to run the code block. Okay, so now we can see here this variable hello world, but also know that up here in your environment, now as a value, we have variable is equal to hello world. So that's going to be very useful, especially as you start working with more extensive blocks of code and data frames, is you're going to be able to see everything in this environment right here. So that can be really helpful. Okay, so another thing, if you're familiar using MATLAB, you might know that MATLAB is a great calculator, and R similarly works as a calculator, so you can do x is equal to 2 plus 4, and it will output 6. And so you can see here this value over here is 6, x is equivalent to 6. And so you can keep adding on to that x, so if we said x plus 3 equals y, you're going to see y is 9 here, which is in fact x, which is 6 plus 3. Okay, great. Another thing that you're going to be able to do within R is you're going to be able to create lists. So if we have a list here, we're going to say z equals list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if we go ahead and run this chunk of code, you're going to see up here in data we have a list of 6, and so we have these numeric values. So if we go ahead and do the same thing, saying L is equal to list 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we'll have another. And to do very basic plotting, there's a great array of different plotting packages in R, one thing that makes R so unique. And so we aren't going to worry too much about that. We're going to just show a basic plotting here because you're going to learn all about ggplot and other plotting later on in the course. So we're going to do plot Z and L, and we're going to go ahead and play that. And now you'll see this plot, just a very basic plot, and with the values from the list. Note that it doesn't show up here under plots over on your right bottom side, and that's because you didn't print it in the console. If I went directly to your console and typed it in, it would show up here as well. Okay, so another great tool to note is cleaning up your environment. And so let's say you want to get rid of all of these variables. There's a little broom up here. If you click that and then click yes, it's going to get rid of all your environments. So this is a way that you can clean up your environment while you're working in it to make sure you haven't made any errors. Okay, so now we're going to discuss libraries because your first assignment is going to be working with a library. And libraries are a bunch of code packages within the R platform that do different tasks. So like ggplot creates a very intuitive plotting platform, and there's numerous other toolboxes for machine learning, for data analysis. The one that we're going to use today is called Swirl, and Swirl is a teaching library, so it's going to walk you through how to do some of this coding. So we're going to go ahead and install the packages. So we're going to go down here and we're in the console and we're going to say install.packages, and then make sure to put these in quotes. This is going to be Swirl, and click enter. Now it might take a minute here because it's going to be installing the package into your library, and it's going to be checking a bunch of things and making sure that your R is up to par. And now it says the downloaded binary packages are in this place. So awesome. So it's unpacked and checked out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do swirl install _ course, and we're going to do R programming to start. And this is the first assignment that you'll be working through. So click enter. And now you can see that the course was installed successfully. So now if we run library swirl and click enter, now it's going to walk you, and so now what it's going to do is it's going to walk you through this course. So now you can see hi, type swirl when you are ready to begin. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then tell them your name here, and it's going to walk you through all of these different coding practices. So we're just going to hit enter. It's going to walk you through a little bit of a tutorial here. We're going to do R programming, so if it gives you a list of other courses, just click the one that is for R programming. So now you can see you can choose a lesson, and so if you want to work on things and come back to it, this would be a really great place. You'll always be able to come back to this and pick out where you had stopped off. So now you can see that you have this, and we're going to start with the basic building blocks, and you're just going to follow along with this tutorial. So if you want to pull this console up, because we're not going to be working as much in R Markdown for this initial one, feel free to do that. Okay, so this was the tutorial intro to your first project in RStudio and working with getting Swirl up and running so that you can get started on your assignment. All right.